Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. All right, guys, out there in YouTube land, let me know how I sound. Go ahead and type it in the chat. DL on the quest to prove he is not a troll, or she. What if I was to tell you that I'm not convinced? That it's going to take you a really long time. Julianne, how you doing? What you been up to? Karen, always good to see you. Dark Side, what up? Saturday, July 19th, 2025. I don't know. I guess there's no rules anymore. There's no rules, guys. So, DL Dill. I'm not a troll. Who are you, DL? Who the hell are you? Louise, what up? Tam B. You're welcome. Honestly, I needed to consult with her. You know I can't do anything on my own. I roll with the crew. Louise, no rules. Yeah, no rules. Let's do it. Let's get it. Right? There were no rules when Abby and Libby were killed. Why should we have any rules here? Beth, what's up? You know, what do we need rules for? Maybe just a different set of rules, you know? Law of the jungle. Angela. Julianne. Angela Lively. I don't know who that is. I'm sorry. Welcome in, Angela. Timmy. No rules, just right. Yep, no rules. If you're going to walk across a bridge, kidnap two young girls who had everything to live for, both very charismatic. Libby was like borderline genius. I don't know too much about Abby, but they were super curious. And if they're both hanging out together, you have to assume that they're both super clever. I mean, why would Libby be wasting her time with some fool? Yeah, I saw you. What's that MGMK song? You got down on your knees for 'em. When you were just a child, you got down on your knees. and you crawl to them. That's how I feel when I hear some people. Any of you. Used to be an admin long ago. I'm not a troll, but I'm short. That's okay. I'm short too. That is fine. I like to be underestimated. So today, what I want from the chat is a little bit of devil's advocate.
I rest my case.
All right. Why is Richard Allen not the killer? Go. Libby was beyond her years, but yeah, they were, yeah, definitely compared to me. You know, typically in a small town, you don't get that type of progression or the dynamic, right? Usually, people who are kind of in the foster system, struggling parents addicted to drugs, uh, typically you don't have it that easy. Not that she had it easy by any means. But when I say easy, I'm talking about in the way she responded to her situation. Um, very determined. I used to call it when I was probably her age mind control. You know, I'd look amongst my peers and say, man, none of you guys have any control of your behavior. You know, nobody could see into the future. I think, I don't know a whole lot about Abby, but I think Libby did. You know, I think she could see herself into the, you know, in the future. What's going on, Hiawatha? Rules are made to be broken, and in this case, they've been broken at every level. Well, let's start with the rule that Richard Allen broke. Right? Thou shalt not kill. It's a pretty big one. We can always segue from there, but it's a good place to start. Anthony France, what the hell's going on, buddy? Tamby. Who we missing? Patty. How's it going? People think Greeno and Nick were involved. Well, I'm not a big fan of tunnel vision, and I'm definitely try to keep an open mind. Like I said, everything for me is intuition, God-given discernment. Like that's what guides me. You know, there's certain things that pique my interest. And I can see the Greeno angle, you know, him reliving the crime scene, running up and down. But you got to remember, there were a lot of lies and rumors being around about a darker man being seen at the end of the bridge. People are still perpetuating this bullshit. But it's those lies that then lead to Anthony Greeno, right? He's a little bit darker. So I think it's time we start dealing in factual information. I don't mind speculating and theorizing as long as we have a solid foundation. You know, we can put up styrofoam walls if you want, and then the rest of you can knock them down if you can. Louise says conspiracy clowns think me and HCC are involved. It's insane. People pushing insane conspiracies. Well, I didn't think that you and HCC were involved until you put that comment. Now I believe that you two are involved, and you are attempting to stage your involvement. I wasn't concerned about it before, but I am now. Right? Frank Meister, what up? Dark side, yeah. Both young girls definitely would have had a family themselves. He killed more than just them. Yeah, there's a video of Anna Williams that will floor you. And I recommend all of you go watch it. It's a good for you to kind of get a grasp of what we're dealing with. Um, it's Anna Williams in the middle of an interview talking about how she will never have grandbabies. It just kind of unwillingly wraps your mind around the scope of it, like a tearjerker. It's just crazy. And the fact that we don't know why, I mean, it's very disturbing. We have Anthony Shots, right? We've been looking for this guy. News reporter comes out like, no, I know who. It's like it took me a day to figure it out. I was like, great, this badass reporter, journalist. She figured it out in a day, right? Then the documents are leaked. Fig Solves actually gave me the unredacted transcripts way before Murder Sheet. I just wasn't a blabbermouth. He said, you can talk about it when I release the redacted version. I said, okay. So even so on my live streams, I would show the Murder Sheet version until he got his together. But I have the unredacted version. I have all the names. I have everything in there. And it's very telling. The story in the Keegan Klein transcript, it's a story of a trip to Vegas. It's a story. It's the ski mask incident. It's a story of Keegan Klein searching the Marathon gas station, targeting friends of Libby, connected to the Anthony Shots account. Around the 20th, and then right on the 21st, you have the Kleins going to Las Vegas. So it's like a whole new narrative. Very interesting to see that narrative was never mentioned during the Richard Allen trial. Like, how is that possible? But nobody's going to talk about that. That's even stranger to me. Mark says, after the transcripts came out, I'm more convinced Richard Allen, Libby, and Abby were at the trails that day, in my opinion. Yeah. Think about it. Everybody lied. They lied. Think about all the lies. And why did they perpetrate these lies? They still pushed these old rumors that were being spread on social media at the very beginning of the case, even though there's factual information. Why are they pushing these lies? Here's a good example. Betsy Blair. Apparently, she never mentioned some handsome guy. She never mentioned somebody that looked beautiful or effeminate. Like, she had to correct the record. Like, no, I never said that. If I did, they definitely took it out of context. So it's just lie after lie after lie. She even said, I don't know if it was curly hair or maybe he was wearing a hat. I thought it was a funny hat. Okay, but knew about Anthony's shots, multiple logins. Yeah, I think they all knew each other, and I think they planned this. I think they were all sitting in a room together and they planned this. Let's see. Maybe I can explain why. Let's see. CVS, Peru. Okay, here's a good way to look at it. A lot of people, if you're like me, I need visuals. You know what I mean? So let's take a look at this. So this would have been 2016, right around the time Anthony Shots was created. Now remember, Anthony Shots was created at the exact same time that Kagan Klein and his pops bought tickets to Las Vegas. So if they're on a timeline, right? Let's buy the tickets. We got to produce this product by February 20th. We'll be in Vegas on the 21st. That could explain why you have a forced murder of two in Delphi and then a ski mask incident not too far after, and just a day before they went to Vegas. Let me share my screen. Okay. So in 2016, and even into just at the turn from 2016 to 2017, you have Richard Allen transferring over to Delphi. Why would he do that? Was he having problems, stressors, issues, plotting a murder? But either way, I want you to take note that the Klein home at the time of the creation of Anthony Shots and the purchase of Las Vegas tickets, Kagan Klein and his father lived here, and Richard Allen was working here. Right? 2016, July, Anthony Shots account is created. Tickets are purchased for Las Vegas. And then the grooming of multiple women begins, right? Who can we find to take the bait, commit this murder, get it on film? And honestly, I think the connection was probably what the hell was his name? Jan Kendall. Now, Jan Kendall was ex law enforcement here in Indiana. He's passed away. And this is all hypothetical. You know, I'm not here to accuse anybody. This is just my opinion. But he was living in Las Vegas at the time, right? At the time of the purchase of the tickets, at the time of the creation of the Anthony Shots account, you have a connection who used to be law enforcement, like career. That was their entire career, retired law enforcement, moved to Las Vegas. So who's to say Jan Kendall, retired Indiana law enforcement, now living in Las Vegas, didn't say, hey, I met some people here. They're into some pretty fucked up shit, but they have a lot of money to offer. Kagan, aren't you into some shit like that? How much money are we talking? You know, money motivates. It does. I'm sorry. Even if you don't have money, if you can catfish somebody and convince them that you do have money, You can even get them to commit murder. Don't take my word for it. Frank says, I was told on a very high good authority that Richard Allen knew Keegan Klein and Tony Klein. Well, I have multiple sources who requested to remain anonymous, who have been extremely helpful. Remember, I broke plenty news relation to Richard Allen and his relation to Peru, the Peru area, way before it was made public. So, I mean, that's proof that my sources were accurate. People judged me. People who were close to me judged me, but I don't know if they still are gonna give me credit for that. Do I care? No. Why'd you bring it up then? Sometimes you got to just put it out there. Holman said as much that they knew they're probably, yeah. I mean, look at the amount of resources that they put into trying to establish this a connection between the Kleins and Richard Allen. They believe it with every bit of them. But remember, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And if you haven't learned that yet, I feel bad for you, son. Yeah, isn't that crazy? CVS, right around the corner from the Kleins. And my sources tell me that these guys knew each other, that actually Tony Klein was friends with Kathy Allen, not Richard Allen. Richard Allen was introduced to that group of friends through Kathy and 2nd Street. Richard Allen moved there momentarily. Him and Kathy began dating shortly after high school. So they weren't technically high school sweethearts. They were like flirty during high school. And then shortly after they graduated, boom, they went into like a full-fledged relationship. He went to the military. But apparently she was bouncing around and he was bouncing around. His family was bouncing around 2nd Street. Or he was following her and she was living at 2nd Street. But either way, they were hanging out right there during their younger days, like their early 20s, is what I'm being told. Keegan Klein's father was only about a year and a half older than them, and they were good friends. The two sources that don't even know each other both told me that 2nd Street is the key. And remember, there was a conversation between Keegan Klein and the murder sheet, and he mentions living near Richard Allen on 2nd Street. He said, I was 10 years old. What would I remember about that? Well, he knew what age he was. So right there's the contact, and there's the foreknowledge. Okay, so let's say time goes by. These guys move in over here at Canal Street. I'm not quite sure when. Maybe a couple years. Well, they start coming over here to the CVS. Hey, don't I know you? Yeah, I'm Richard Allen. Oh, yeah, you're Kathy's husband. What are you guys up to? Oh, well, Kathy, her brother died. Kathy's brother died. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, and I'm trying to put my daughter through college. Really? Yeah, she goes to Ball State. Had to fork over all our savings beginning of end of 2015. Now we got to try to figure out how to pay for this funeral. Get this, on top of that, my daughter's getting married at the end of 2017. I'm not shitting you. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. I know. I got a guy in Vegas. He says if we can produce such and such, he can give us $40,000. All right. What's the plan? Right. Kathy's nowhere to be found, self medicating, suffering from depression. She loved her brother. She wants to be alone. Richard Allen has some weird personality disorders, can't give her the attention that she really needs, which is like true compassion, not some soulless psychopath. Right. So she doesn't want to be anywhere around him. I mean, look how close that is. And then right before the murders, guess what, guys? If they're planning these murders from July of 2016, when the Vegas tickets were purchased and the Anthony Shots account was created, that means it's possible that Richard Allen was involved at that point from the very start, right? This is what we need to do. This is our plan. We got to use burner phones, blah, 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 blah. I think typically something like this might even be paid in Bitcoin. Richard Allen talked a lot about trading online, having apps. Maybe he was trading in Bitcoin, and that's how he was involved, helping with the transaction. He said he had to run home, right? He said, after I was done with the trails, I was eager to run home and get back onto my programs. What programs was he referring to? Maybe he was dealing with the money side. And then the ski mask incident, it's either to tie up loose ends, like who can tie us to this murder? We better kill them before they, get us caught. Or, hey, that was easy. Let's produce another product. Like we've been trying to produce as many as we could, running out of time, considering that our tickets are for the 21st of February. That could explain why these guys committed the murder in the middle of the day like they did. They were under a timeline, right? Let's see what else we got in this folder. This one's titled YKK. This map is just showing Richard Allen's mom's, CVS versus the Klein home, and then Delphi.
I'm innocent of this, and I would love to find out who did it.
Klein's phone activity showed he was at his grandmother's house 40 minutes from Delphi.
We could never put his phone or any technology of him being in Delphi.
Can you guys hear that?
During the time of the murders, he was actually at his grandmother's house.
And in
put him at the crime scene, his phone was at his grandmother's house. Well, it was also connected to a Wi-Fi Papa Pike, which was the Trexler residence, who I believe shares the same grandparent, right? Thank you, Silver.
By looking at page 6 of Barbara McDonald and Kagan Klein's interview transcript, we know that law enforcement knew exactly who created the Anthony Shots profile. We also know that they threatened Kagan with releasing that information to the public. Now, let me quote Kagan from page 6. "Oh, yeah, they told me they were going to put something, and I said, that's fine with me. I don't care, I'm innocent, so you can put out whatever you want. And I have a friend in Texas that's texting me and telling me, hey."
Okay, now remember this. He talks about a friend in Texas. He talks about how he doesn't care if they put out the Anthony Shots information. He's innocent. Now remember, later on, he confesses that he participated in the murders. So don't forget that.
Hey, you're on the news here.
While investigating the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, detectives with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office.
And also, do not forget that the person who was involved in the scandal about releasing crime scene photos, that person lives in Texas. I wonder if they have a connection. Is that the friend he's referring to? The one who was connected to the gentleman who took his own life?
And the Indiana State Police have uncovered an online profile named Anthony Shots.
I think they released the Anthony Shots information because they were confident Kagan was withholding information, and this was a pressure campaign. I believe this information was released at 10 p.m. at night to target the social media community, knowing that they would be successful in digging up who created the Anthony Shots profile.
Who?
And after doing so, this would apply the pressure needed to get Kagan to talk. We
And
know
he
on
did.
August 19th, Kagan was taken into ISP custody with all pertinent information being sealed and marked as confidential. Let me quote one of the agreed orders: that the Miami County Sheriff's Department be authorized to temporarily place the defendant in the above captioned cause into the secure custody of Indiana State Police, and that upon the conclusion of said temporary custody, that the defendant be returned to the custody of the Miami County Jail. We also know the day Keegan was taken into ISP custody was the same day the Wabash River search began.
The search began August 19th.
What?
The same day, a court allowed Indiana State Police to take custody of Kagan Klein.
The search lasted 5 weeks and concluded on September 28th. 2 weeks after the search concluded, on October 13th, Richard Allen's home was searched. 2 weeks after Richard Allen's home was searched, he was arrested.
Breaking news tonight at 6, an arrest in the unsolved Delphi murders case.
2 weeks seems about the right time to run forensics and get your results back. These are the main reasons I believe Kagan Klein led to the arrest of Richard Allen. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Quick video. Let's see what else I got in this folder. All right, let's see. Here's a document. What's it titled? Oh, this is about Emily Ann. So they're using Kick Messenger around April 30th of 2016. So they were already using Emily Ann, right? So before the creation of Anthony Shots, he was using Emily Ann and probably having some success with it, right? So if they were plotting a murder, they wouldn't use Emily Ann. They would create a new account, which was Anthony Shots. Look at this, February 26th. This was posted to Facebook. Okay, I'm weirded out. This is probably just a sign that I'm paying too much attention to this case. But I went to Liberty's Instagram yesterday and noticed that a really strikingly attractive teenager had liked a couple of her posts. I back searched his profile photo, and it was of an old photo of a male model, not a real person, as he was claiming to be. But he claimed to have just moved to Lafayette. His profile was private and a typical phishing profile, but he only had like 50 followers. Today, the likes from him are gone, and either his name is changed or he's deleted his profile. So by the 26th, he starts erasing his connection. And remember, he even went back to his Facebook and changed everything to the 12th of February. You guys remember that? That's very similar to kind of what Ron Logan is being accused of, creating a false alibi. The Kleins did that. A lot of people forget that. Not just Kagan, but his father did that too. Not realizing that if you highlight your cursor over it, it will reveal the actual date the post was created, and it'll show that it was edited. So not too bright. Here's something else. Hey all, I have a personal experience with Kagan Klein from my junior year of high school. I am now a second-year sophomore in college. He had roped me into his life because I was a rebellious teen, right? That's what you do. You target troubled kids who are vulnerable. Psychopaths target, they want an easy victim, an easy target. He said he'd be my sugar daddy, right? He ain't got no money, but if he can create the perception of money, some people, in some cases, can get others to kill. Go look at the Darren Schillmiller case, for example. He'd have me send him pictures and videos and try to make me meet up with him, and tried to make me meet up with his older friends as well. His older friends. Who's that? Richard Allen is older. Right? Kathy's not paying him any attention. Maybe she's even flirting. Right? We had Tony Nebergall hanging around quite a bit, and he was kind of an outlaw. Maybe Richard Allen was feeling upset about something. Let's see, friends as well, and would beg me to let them gangbang me. Luckily, he never knew where I lived, and that didn't happen. But seeing it now, those girls could have been me, and that's beyond scary. Hell yeah. Fucking, you're lucky.
I bet you don't even have a fourth grade reading level.
Immortal suck navel.
Well, maybe a fifth grade reading level.
That's funny. And then you this, right? This is the shit that he was posting on Facebook, and it kind of looks like Abby, like it's in a way, not necessarily, but it is titled Artery, right? And then he posted this one titled Rose on Liberty's birthday with an image of a rose. What's up, Monday? Let's see. Here's another snippet from his transcripts after he was arrested on August 19th. Emily Ann said, this is the cop kind of reading it off to him, his digital forensics. Emily Ann said, he asked if an older man took you in the bathroom and told you to get on your knees and suck his penis. What would you do? And he's talking to a person named KK Baker. KK Baker said, oh, probably not. Like, no. Emily Ann said, oh. Emily Ann said he asked if a 40-year-old, right? Richard Allen was 43 at the time. He asked if a 40-year-old met you, could he look at your vagina? Baker said no. And then Baker asked this young kid, says, what does your dad look like? Well, dad doesn't have to be dad. Dad could be Richard Allen, right? Keegan Klein isn't Emily Ann. I mean, come on now. Emily Ann said, well, I'm sorry, KK Baker said. How old? Emily Ann said 42. Look, 2016, Richard Allen was 42, around 42, 43. Actually, he was 43 at the time. The father was closer to 50. So he's definitely not talking about TK. Why is he telling somebody in 2016 that his dad is 42, Richard Allen is practically 42? Right. And that's what they do. Like, here, let me transfer this person to you. Because behind the scenes, it could be Richard Allen going, hey, 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 send her to my account. Send her to my account. Like, hey, you want to talk to my dad? Could be Richard Allen. Look, that's what it says right here, 42, and this would have been in 2016. Let's read on. 42. What about you? Says 16. He said, oh. She says, yeah. Emily Ann said, my dad asked if you'd ever hook up with a 42-year-old. Tell me that can't be Richard Allen right there. 42. He was 43 at the time. Look, and it even says right here, he's almost 43, though. Richard Allen was 43 at the time this conversation was happening. They just can't prove it's him. Talks about doing PCP and LSD and mushrooms. See, I literally have no clue how that girl died, Klein told investigators. I don't know anything. Anything to do with that. Yeah, that is weird. It's a weird ass coincidence that it happened. And I talked to her like I get that. Now remember, what we've learned since then is Anthony Schatz was talking to Abby Libby the day before and all the over through the night, into the night, the late hours, into the early morning hours, up until they were killed. Nothing to see here. I mean, this is bizarre. It's like almost as bad as the whole Epstein shit. So they asked Kagan Klein, when you're searching nonstop about the Delphi investigation, when you're supposed to be on vacation. So the murder happens, he takes his Vegas trip, and while he's there, he cannot stop looking up the Delphi investigation. So they tell him, so when you're supposed to be on vacation, when you're still actually sending Snapchats. So he's keeping up with the Delphi murders. He knows that Liberty's dead. He knows who she is, but yet he's doing a countermeasure. He's still messaging her as if she's alive. That's something a killer would do. You know, when a boyfriend kills the girlfriend and picks up her cell phone, tries to act like she's still alive, or the husband or whatever, anybody who is in possession of the cell phone. That's exactly what this looks like. He still feels like he's incognito. He says, I don't ever remember doing that. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe he handed over the phones. Maybe he was no longer allowed to operate the phones. I think these are just his charges. What else do I got here? Question. So Anthony Schatz. So when they were asking you, did you send her images? You said no because you didn't, but Anthony Schatz did. Like they're trying to figure out who this is. Like if you're not sending images, who's doing this? Because they already know two separate people are operating the Anthony Schatz account. They don't know if it's his dad or somebody that they don't know yet. Kagan Klein says no because I don't remember sending them anything. So he could already be asleep, right? And there's Richard Allen in the living room of the Klein home at 2 a.m. communicating through the Anthony Schatz account with Abby and Libby. Right? Why not? Oh, because law enforcement did their due diligence. Oh, yeah. How did they solve this case again? Oh, yeah. Kathy Shank found an old tip that was in a pile of papers. So tell me how the investigation did anything. Did they have DNA? No. Did they have any suspects related to the case? No. They didn't even have the guy that self-reported on day 2. So sorry if I don't take their word for it. I mean, I just can't do it. And this is very interesting too. They say, okay, well, on February 13th, this would have been logged in a little bit earlier. So that would have been 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, remember, there's a creepy guy walking around the private drive gate at the entrance of the private drive at 8:30. There's a weird car parked strangely at 8:45, reported by Brad Heath. Now, law enforcement is telling Keegan Klein that we know for a fact. Okay, let me read this. This would have been 8 o'clock in the morning at your house, okay, where you and your dad lived. 2 separate devices. See the numbers here? And he's showing it to him on the document. Like, look, we know already. He says, look, they're the same. Log in, log out, log in, log out. One device, log in, log out, all within minutes of each other. So they're asking him, where the hell are these devices and what are you doing at 8 in the morning logging into 2 burner phones? Richard Allen is apparently supposed to be in Peru at this very moment. There's creepy guys running around the gate of the private drive, the other side of the private drive, like they're planning on committing a crime. And not to mention the CPS building, it's wide open. It's not locked up. It's not boarded up. The front door was wide open. You can ask anybody in Delphi about that. Okay, look at this. So they tell him, yeah, that's a fact. Now, the one thing that they don't know is what other devices would communicate that you would communicate with her on. So they're looking for these phones. They don't know where these phones are. What other devices would you communicate with anybody else on? Right? They already have all his phones. So why would they be asking him that? They're looking for the bridge guy's phone. And I think Kagan tried to give it to him. Maybe they found it, maybe they didn't. See, here they go again. What 2 devices were these? These right here. It's a fact. See, they're trying to figure that out. Here's the question. Well, on February 13th, this would have been logged in a little bit earlier. So it would have been 8 o'clock in the morning at your house, okay? Where you and your dad live. 2 separate devices. See the numbers here? How they're the same? Log in, log out, log in, log out. One device, log in, log out. Within minutes of each other. To the same Anthony Schatz Snapchat account. Now remember, all of the trial exhibits from the witnesses to establish a timeline have to do with Snapchat. So if Kagan and Richard Allen are connected, they're stalking these girls through Snapchat. If you're wondering why you have Richard Allen's car leaving from the direction of the cemetery at 127, it's because Bree Weber is posting to Snapchat at 126 a photograph that looks like Abby. And if you have a creepy guy who's walking around basically Abby Street, that's her street. The man that was witnessed at 8:30 in the morning near the mailboxes by Teresa Liebert, yeah, that's Abby lived on that same street right there. So he could very well targeting her, trying to figure out how he's going to target her, right? Everybody's asking what's going on with the bridge guy video. If we got to go this way, there's no trail here, but we need to go down here. Maybe they're trying to get to the private drive. You have the creepy guy messing around the gate at the head of the private drive, and you have Abby and Libby saying, we can't go this way, there's no trail. But if we want to get to where we're going, we got to go down here. Well, guess what's down there? Possibly something that Teresa Liebert quoted during the trial. She says, they asked her, well, why do you have a gate up? She says, well, that's my property. That's not Brad Weber's property. He's actually upset that I block it, but it's not safe during the winter. She says, Brad Weber created another exit on the other side. Basically, I guess that would be south of that area. She says, I'm trying to keep people from going down the hill, is what she said. So if if you go down the private drive, you're referred to it as going down the hill. Does Richard Allen know that? He lives less than a mile from there. Or is it somebody more local? Why did he say down the hill exactly the way that she said it? Right? And where are the girls going? Libby told Abby, this is the direction we got to go. We got to go down here. What's down there is down the hill. The killer says, guys, down the hill. Teresa Liebert said, I put up the gate because I wanted to prevent people from going down the hill. The private drive is down the hill. Just saying. There seems to be a plot against these girls for whatever reason. I'm beginning to think that it was monetary. But we'll hang out in the chat for the remainder. This will be our 5-minute warning. Welcome in For Real For Real. They have attorney Auger and Bob Mata. Show talking Richard Allen. Then she said he never went back to the crime scene, in which I assume she's talking about Richard Allen. Welcome in Monday. GP, what up? How you doing? I know why he's being moved. Well, we know why he's being moved out of state. Why? I don't know. If I had to guess or speculate, I would assume that it had to do with Kagan Klein. But it also could be his attorneys finding issues, and it could be part of his appeal process. You know, it could be a bombshell benefiting Richard Allen. I don't know. Guess we'll wait and see. Heather, welcome in. Monday say, wasn't there a shoe tree down there? Yeah, we saw it. That could have been where they were going. They could have been going to the shoe tree. You know, maybe the killers were luring them down there. Think about it. If Betsy Blair is leaving the Monon High Bridge and she passes Abby and Libby, and she just left a man on first platform of the bridge, Well, that means Abby and Libby are walking up to the bridge and there's a man right there. Right? According to what Betsy Blair's telling us, Abby and Libby are walking to either to see a man on the bridge or a man walking off of the bridge, either lingering around the north end of the bridge or walking towards them and passing them as well. But he could very well be on that first platform. Or he could have continued all the way across before the girls even got there. He could have been already on the south end. But everybody that saw Libby's video says the man that we bumped into was the bridge guy. Now, I just don't understand how people can get behind Richard Allen without talking about the fact that Richard said, yeah, when I got there, I ran into these girls. 2 of them looked like sisters. They looked like they might have been babysitting. One of them was taller than the rest. Okay. Now, the very 3 girls that were leaving the trails right in the same area that Richard Allen says he bumped into girls are these 3 witnesses that say at 1:26 is when they ran to this guy, right? And they fit the description of who Richard Allen's seen. And earlier on, Richard Allen said, I was there at 1:30 to 3:30. He changed his story later. But he didn't get off of these girls that he saw. Yeah, he said, oh, yeah, 2 of them look like sisters. Well, guess what? 2 of the witnesses that reported the bridge guy were sisters. Guess what they were doing? Babysitting. Guess what Richard Allen said he thought that what they were doing? Babysitting. And guess what? Guess who was a little bit taller than them? Bree. I mean, you guys, come on. I mean, come on. What's one of the biggest questions you still have about the Delphi case? Kagan Klein. Everybody talks about Richard Allen confessions. They talk about Elvis Fields' confessions. There's all kinds of confessions that don't tie into anybody's narratives also, right? There's been people who have confessed along the way. But the one confession that nobody talks about really is Kagan Klein's confession. Remember, he's the only one to really sit down with the investigative team, including the prosecutor, and confess to the crimes. They ask him, well, what'd you do, Kagan? Well, we drove to Delphi. We went to the cemetery. I waited in the vehicle. My father got out. And when he came back, he was covered in mud and blood. And he said, we just had fun. He never really talked about a red Jeep. They didn't have to cross the Hoosier Harvest Store video. They could have gone the way they came. They don't have Richard Allen coming to the trails, right? They don't have him passing this direction in front of the Hoosier Harvest Store. They just have him passing in the direction that we've seen in the exhibits. So if they don't have video of him coming in, that tells us that he came in through a back way. The back way is from the cemetery. Kagan Klein said, hey, that's where we went. That's where I went, to the cemetery. Early on in the case, the murder sheet interviewed a man by the name of Bart. Bart used to be the stepson of TK. Bart said that TK used to take them fishing right there near the crime scene. Whatever that means. Do with that information what you will. But nobody's going to pay any attention to any real third-party suspects. They don't want them caught. I feel like the FBI doesn't want the clients caught either. I feel like they want to minimize the damage. They want to minimize damage, and that's what's going on with Kagan Klein and with Richard Allen. That could have a lot to do with why he's not confessing. And maybe they transferred him because maybe he is cooperating. You never know. Thank you, Sharon. Appreciate that. If them girls aren't good enough for people, sorry, kind of ridiculous to imply they're lying, I think. Yeah, I mean, it is ridiculous. Unless you have some bombshell information, I mean, why would you? You might be able to talk about it behind the scenes, but to go out like on a YouTube channel and try to imply that these girls somehow set up Libby is preposterous. We've thrown around mean teen theories, but usually you would have to back that up by something other than just targeting these girls because they're on the surface, right? Most people are lazy when it comes to sleuthing. They look at all the information and all they see is what's on the surface, right? What's on the surface, are those girls. Bree Wilbur, Voorhees, Kelsey. So they try to put together a narrative what they found on the surface. They didn't even take the time to dig a little, even through one layer. They're just lazy. They just want to throw out a narrative that a large portion of viewers out there might just bite on. And I'm glad that that's not what we promote here on the Sleuth Intuition channel. And that's why I respect you guys. First and foremost. All right. I think that's going to do it. CJK, what up? Mark, thank you for your participation and all your support. Boston Christian, it's good to see you. Everybody, have a safe Saturday, and I will catch you tomorrow. GP, thank you. Yep, I agree with you. And on that note, guys, I'll catch you tomorrow. Maybe we'll follow up right here where we left off. Take care.